Out of 25 kids, this one specific athlete tested 18th in the sprint. He was 24th in the uphill run and 20th in upper body strength. He was tiny. He hadn't hit puberty yet. Every weekend, he was lining up against kids who were literally twice his size. If you are a parent watching your kid go through this, it's tough. You might even hear coaches say he or she just doesn't have what it takes. But this specific kid didn't just make it. He grew up to become the greatest Winter Olympian of all time. His name is Johannes Klæbo. You may have seen him doing this. He's the most successful Winter Olympian of all time, with 11 gold medals to his name. But at 15, his own coach admitted his test results were completely middle of the pack. Average as average can be. How does that undersized kid who loses every physical battle become the GOAT? It isn't just in how he skied, it's in what he did off the snow as well. He didn't specialize early, as many are told they have to. He was also a football player until he was 15, and today he credits that multi-sport background for his record-breaking success. As a sports physio and coach, I look at athletic development every day, and Johannes' story dismantles the way we currently approach youth sports and shows that the current approach messes with both the early maturers and the late bloomers, just in completely different ways. Youth football and youth sports in general, for that matter, is obsessed with early physical dominance. If a kid is big, fast, and strong at age 10, they tend to dominate the game. For the big kids, this system creates a false sense of security. When a bigger 12-year-old bulldozes through three tiny defenders, it's not really fair or even interesting competition-wise. More importantly, relying purely on size, strength, and power teaches that early mature nothing except how to use their size advantage. It doesn't really develop skillful, intelligent players because they're not competing against kids at the same physical level. They don't have to learn how to solve these more difficult movement problems that require real skill. When everyone else finally hits puberty and catches up, that size advantage disappears, and the star player is suddenly left without the technical skills to make it at the next level. And motivation usually takes a hit. But for the late bloomer, undersized kids like Johannes, the situation is sort of reversed. They are forced to play a physical game they simply cannot win yet. They're constantly getting pushed off the ball, starting to believe they're just not good enough. And the science is very clear on this. Low perceived physical competence, along with a lack of enjoyment, are the leading causes of kids dropping out of sports. The system chews them up and spits them out before their bodies even have a chance to mature. On top of that, forcing any kid into a high pressure single sport environment too early is a flawed strategy. Evidence suggests that when kids narrow in on participating in a particular sport at the expense of participation in other sports, there is increased risk of injury and burnout. Intense early specialization does not predict adult elite success. Studies tracking athletes over decades show that successful juniors and successful seniors are largely two different populations, meaning the athletes who ultimately become world-class adults usually started specializing later and are not the ones who are best youth athletes. Johannes survived because his coach, Rune, realized a fundamental truth. If practice was just a pure physical race, Johannes and kids like him would never win. Not in practice, and certainly not in competitions. And if they felt incompetent, as in not good, and stopped having fun, they would quit. So Rune gamified the training. He created an environment where kids earn points for effort and for competing in chaotic, unstructured games. This wasn't handing out participation trophies for just showing up. Winning these games meant putting in serious effort. Through Coach Rune's demands for effort, the kids earned their sense of competency and mastery, and they got to do it alongside their friends. Johannes has said that going to practice was the most fun thing he did all week. No wonder he was motivated to keep up the effort for the other days of the week and later on. Because Johannes couldn't rely on brute force, he had to rely on the only things that he could control: technique and balance. So that's where he and his grandfather would spend the majority of their practice time. This is where playing football until he was 15 became a big advantage. Diversified play develops movement skills like agility, balance, coordination, and speed in contexts outside of that single sport. Nearly 100 years ago, Soviet sports scientist Nikolai Bernstein showed that true motor skill development isn't about mindless repetition. He called it repetition without repetition. We don't repeat a movement exactly. We repeat the outcome using slightly different movements. And learning is not the process of repeating a solution, a movement. It's repeating the process of finding a solution. While the early maturing kids were perfecting one recipe, one movement, using their physical size, Johannes was playing multiple sports, solving different movement puzzles, becoming a master chef. When he finally hit puberty later than most, his body caught up with him, but he now possessed a deep, adaptable movement vocabulary the big kids simply didn't have. If your child is the late bloomer, you don't need to panic. And if your child is the biggest kid on the pitch, you would do well to make sure they are being challenged to develop skills, not just relying on their size. If we want to develop elite, adaptable athletes, we need to respect the process of development, encourage kids to sample other sports, have practice environments that look less like an assembly line and more like a game. Johannes Hesflot Klæbo proved that prioritizing joy, play, and diverse movement isn't just a nice idea, it's the foundation of world class performance. If you want to see some of the ways that you can give your kid the movement vocabulary along with enjoyment to continue being active, take a look at this video here. And if you want to see how we can keep our kids injury free, have a look at this one. Thanks for watching. See you next time.